Hey guys, I'm Madison Mary and welcome back to my channel. Today I have a rather long video for you guys. So if you guys weren't aware, I went to ALA in Philadelphia during the month of January. I have a vlog for it. This is a convention that is for librarians and booksellers and things like that. Mostly librarians, but you can get an exhibition pass if you are not a librarian in order to be on the show floor and check out all the different things that are going on. But yeah, this video is going to be hella long. I do want to quickly say that because I have over 100 books to talk about in this one video and I don't want it to be, you know, colossal, I'm just gonna be like very brief in what these books are about.
Why you always lying?
So without further ado, I'm gonna start this in publication order. Because of how long this video is gonna take, there might be like some switching of scenery every once in a while because I'll have to film this in multiple clips. But yes, that is all, and without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so the three arcs that had already come out in January is City of Stone and Silence. This is by ᴛᴏᴏᴅᴅᴅ. This is the sequel to Ship of Smoke and Steel. It is an epic fantasy trilogy, and this is obviously the second book in it. Then we have Seven Deadly Shadows. So this is a contemporary retelling of Seven Samurai. So it's about an unlikely heroine who teams up with seven duplicitous death gods to prevent an evil entity from bringing Japan to ruins. And then the last January release was Furious Things. This is by Jenny Downham. So it's basically about this girl named Lexi, and she has this immense anger inside of her. And it's about her, just her life as she's going through being so frustrated and mad at the world and what this means for her. So I don't know, it was a contemporary book that kind of caught my eye, and I was like, you know what? Let's have a look-see. So with February, I'm going to start with A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. This is actually already out in the UK. It was published in 2019, but it's coming out on February 4th for us, which is already past. And so 4 years ago, there was this girl who was murdered by her boyfriend, and he then committed suicide. And 4 years later, this still really rifes the town, and we follow Pip, who was friends with the boyfriend who killed his girlfriend. And she decides to look further into the case for her college project, and it's about the secrets she discovers. We then have a middle grade called Aggie Morton Mystery Queen, The Body Under the Piano. I actually don't know too much about this. I just grabbed a couple of middle grades because I like them as palette cleansers for myself personally, and this is pitched as a imagining of what Agatha Christie's childhood like could have been like. So we then have also in February, these are all February 4th at the moment by the way, we have What Kind of Girl. This does have a different cover at the moment. It was just released, and oh my god, does this sound amazing. Julie from Pages and Pens read this and freaking loved it. So it's about how this girl comes to school one day and tells the principal that her boyfriend has been physically abusing her. And it's about this high school and these two sides of the story that are going on. So switching to February 11th, we have Storm from the East by Joanna Hathaway. This is the sequel to Dark from the West. This is a trilogy. The Glass Alliance, I think is what the trilogy is called. I really struggle with explaining Dark of the West because it's not fantasy, but it is kind of fantasy, but it's historical fiction, and there's aviation, and there's princesses, and there's kingdoms. And so it's basically about this boy who infiltrates his kingdom and ends up falling in love with the girl, the princess that he's been tasked with spying on. Also on February 11th, we have Ink in the Blood, and this is about how magic is transferred via ink on your body. Ink, I see, tattoos, duh. We have The Last Confessions of Autumn Casterly. So we follow Ivy. Ivy has a older sister named Autumn. Autumn ends up getting in with the wrong crowd, and she ends up, when a drug deal goes wrong, held hostage and beaten. And so it is a bit speculative because Autumn leaves her body, and her essence, her soul, goes out to Ivy and seeks Ivy's help in finding her before she dies. We have, oh god, The Unwilling, and this is by Kelly Braffett, and it says, she has no name, no history, but she has a power greater than the Empire has ever known. So it's about this girl named Judah, and she has been raised alongside the crown prince, basically, Gavin, and he is supposed to become the heir, and as they get older and older, she begins to realize that even though she's been raised in this equal setting that she has no actual power in comparison to him. And then the last book for Feb 11th is another middle grade, and this is Gloomtown. It looks really cute. It's about 12-year-old Rory, and he applies for a job at a spooky mansion in his gloomy seaside town. Then on February 18th, we have Foul is Fair. This is by Hannah Capin. I will admit the UK edition of this is much prettier. So it says, I kiss Mac, Lila screams, Connor falls. One down, now the rest must go. St. Andrews has met its new queen. With vengeance on her mind and fire in her eyes, Jade and her coven will take down the boys who wronged her one by one. And I feel like everyone kind of knows about this book by now. We have The Other Misses. This is a up-and-coming Mary Kubica book. Don't know anything about this. I never know anything about my thrillers. Don't get mad at me. If you're someone who likes to know what your thrillers are about, go on to Goodreads. And then the last Feb 18th book is, this was a display copy, can you guys tell? The Upside of Falling. Becca Hart, who pretends that she is dating someone. She says to her friends, oh, I have a boyfriend. And her friend's like, okay. And then we have Brett Wells, who is the captain of the football team and has been so focused on getting into a good college, being the best of the best, that he desperately needs a date to prom and decides to step in as Becca's mystery guy. And so it's with the two of them, fake dating, and I love fake dating tropes. So of course I was like, yes. Then lastly, switching to Feb 25th, we have Black Leviathan. This was pitched to me as what it would be like if, what is that gigantic whale's name? Does it say on the back? Moby Dick. What was it called? So it's pitched as Moby Dick, but a dragon. We then have Pretty as a Picture. It says an egomaniacal movie director, an isolated island, and a decades-old murder, which is all I need to know. Rebel Wing by Andrea Tang. And if that cover does not entice you, I don't know what doesn't. And we follow Prudence Wu, who's a prep school student with a black market smuggling gig on the side. And when one of her drop-offs goes wrong, she gets the help of a sentient cybernetic dragon. So starting with March 3rd, once again, another book that was released in 2019 in the UK, but is only being now released in the US. And that is, oh god, We Are Blood and Thunder by Kezia Lupo, and this is about these two girls. One of them has been convicted as mage and she's going to be killed, so she escapes into the forest, and when she does this, she crosses paths with this other girl, Constance, who had fled the same city 6 years ago. Then we have Be Not Far From Me by Mindy McGuinness. I'm so excited for this. This is about, what's her name again? Ashley. Her and her friends go hiking into the forest, and they have a huge party and a drinking. She catches her boyfriend with this other girl, and then Ashley wakes up the next morning and she's nowhere near anyone else. How will Ashley survive despite the red streak of infection creeping up her leg? Also on March 3rd is The Two Lives of Lydia Bird by Josie Silver. So it's about Lydia and how she has been together with Freddie for more than a decade. And on her 28th birthday, he gets in a car accident and dies. And then something happens and Lydia is able to live two lives at once. The life where she goes on without Freddie, and then this other life where she's able to return to a world where Freddie is still alive. Then we have Once Upon a Sunset, and this is about a girl who returns to the Philippines to connect with her family, and she finds herself and love along the way. Then we have a very serious book that I feel like a lot of people are aware of at the moment, and that is Docile by K.M. Sparza. People are basically servants under other people, and you can take this drug called Docile that kind of makes you docile and more pliable to do these servant things for these people. And so I know that I think it's male in this, a lot of it, and that it's very graphic in the sex and the mental and physical abuse that goes on in it, and it says on the front cover, there is no consent under capitalism. We then have a book that I have been so stoked for all year, and that is The Winter Duke. So it's about Akata, and her brother is about to be named the heir of their kingdom. However, a curse gets placed on her family, and her parents and 12 siblings all fall under this spell, and so she ends up having to inherit her father's title, her brother's warrior bride, and the ever-enroaching challenges for the throne from outside and within her own ministry. We then have a brand new middle grade from Ellie Carter, who I adore. I read Ali Carter a bunch when I was in middle school, and her new middle grade sounds, I actually don't know much about it, but it's a middle grade from Ali Carter. Then we have The Vanishing Deep by Astrid Shuttle. This world, 500 years ago, the planet was destroyed and now society lives underwater. And there is this facility on an island that will bring the dead back to life for 24 hours for a very steep price. And so we follow Tempeh, and her younger sister Alicia was killed for committing the crime of killing, you know, their parents. And so Tempeh decides to pay the price and bring her sister back to life for 24 hours to find out the truth. Also on March 3rd, we have Witches of Ash and Ruin by ɪİ. And it says, modern witchcraft blends with ancient Celtic mythology in a mesmerizing novel that is perfect for fans of V.E. Schwab's Shade of Magic trilogy and the chilling adventures of Sabrina. Woman on the Edge, which was released in the UK in 2019, but is now being released on March 3rd here in the US. And all I can see is, she gave you her baby and then she jumped. We have Anna K, which is by Jenny Lee, and this is a retelling of Anna Karenina, and it is in development as a TV series at HBO Max. I did not know that. Moving on to the, oh god, I've made a mess of books on the bottom. Onto the rest of March. I have a lot of March books. March and June, I realized, were like the biggest months out of them all. So we then have, very randomly, this book that comes out on March 10th called High Risk, and it is just like, it's non-fiction, and it is about a doctor's notes on pregnancy, birth, and the unexpected. We then have Harley in the Sky, which also comes out on March 10th, and this is from the author of Starfish and Summerbird Blue. So we follow Harley, who has wanted to be a trapeze artist all her life, but her parents, you know, don't want her to do that. So after a huge fight with them, she ends up just running away. I think she's like 18 or 17, and she ends up joining the circus anyway. And it's about her life doing this and having to come to terms with her past and her present and her family and what this means for her future. I don't know. Chelsea from Chelsea Palmer was really excited for this, so I was like, oh. Also coming out March 10th is The Deep by Alma Katsu, and it's a haunting psychological twist on the sister of the Titanic, the Britannic. On March 17th, we have one of my most anticipated March books, and that is Frozen Beauty. So this book is about these 3 golden sisters of this town, and one night one of them, the one that's obviously dead in the middle, Kit, goes into the woods and no one knows what happened to her. She died. And so it's about the 2 other sisters looking into it, and it sounds very heartbreaking. I think it goes back and forth between now and before, like, the sister dying. Also March 17th, we have Super Adjacent by Crystal Satasi. So it's about Claire, who has always wanted to be with the superheroes, and she finally lands an internship at Warrior Nation, which is like the superhero headquarters. And then we also follow Bridget, who has in her past dated this one superhero, Matt. That's not his actual name, it's Vaporizer. And so it's about the 2 of them and how suddenly the superheroes go missing and they have to team up to figure out what's going on. Starting on March 24th, we have The Glass Hotel by Emily St. John Mandel. I actually got to meet her while I was there, and she signed my book. And this is basically about a Ponzi scheme collapse and the disappearance of a woman, and that's all I know about it and all I want to know about it, and nothing else, please. We then have the new book by Christina Lauren, and that is The Honey Don't List, and this is about 2 assistants falling in love. If I Never Met You by Mari McFarlane. So Laurie was dating this guy for over a decade, and they worked at the same place and everything. He then breaks up with her. Rumors spread throughout the office that his new girlfriend is pregnant, and so Laurie is like, ah. And then Jamie Carter, who doesn't believe in love, needs a steady girlfriend to impress his boss, and so the 2 of them get together. Also we have The Return, which is from Berkeley and is a mystery. A group of friends reunite after one of them returns from a mysterious 2-year disappearance. So exciting. Lastly, on March 24th, we have The Herd by Andrea Bart. So The Herd is this woman-only workspace, and it's run by Eleanor. She's the founder of it, and what happens is she goes missing, and her best friend and that girl's sister end up having to look into this disappearance, and it says they must uncover the haunting truth before they lose their friendships, careers, and maybe even their lives. Finally, on March 31st, we have 3 releases. We have We Are the Wildcats by Siobhan Vivian. So it's about this toxic field hockey coach and his team. The girls end up enacting revenge against him. And I'm really really excited. It says it takes place over 24 hours through 6 different perspectives. And if you guys didn't know, I actually played field hockey in high school. I played it for 4 years. And then I quit, like I do with most sports. We also have Providence by Max Barry. So it says 7 years after the first contact with an alien race, Providence 5 launches. Like all Providences, it carries a crew of 4, tasked with monitoring the ship and keeping humanity up on the war effort by the way of social media. And what happens is this ship ends up losing all contact, and it's just about the 4 of them trying to get home. And then last but not least, on March 31st, we have 7 Endless Forests, which is surprisingly thin. This is the companion book to the Boneless Mercies. Before we move into April, I just want to talk about one of the display finished copies I picked up, and that is The Strangers by Margaret Peterson Haddix. And it's about these 3 kids. Their names are Chess, Emma, and Finn. And they've had a happy life until one day they hear this news about these 3 kids that were kidnapped like many years ago. And the 3 of them really fit this description, and when they ask their mum about it, their mum like kind of pushes it to the side and then goes on this sudden business trip. And so it's like these 3 kids looking into that. I then picked up the sequel, which is called The Deceivers, and this comes out on April 7th, and this is the sequel to it. This is, as I believe, this is a middle grade. Then next in April, on April 7th, I actually have a couple that come out this day. We have a display copy, which is It Sounded Better in My Head, and it has all these lovely stickers on it, which I'm gonna need to figure out how to get rid of. It's about Natalie, whose parents are suddenly getting a divorce, and at the same time her 2 best friends now hooking up and leaving her out of their circle. And it's just her really trying to figure out life, and she ends up finding love along the way. We have the newest book by Veronica Roth, and that is Chosen Ones. This sadly has deckled edges, which, as you guys know, I do abhor. 15 years ago, there was this prophecy about these 5 kids that would take down the Dark One. And they did it. Everyone's back to normal, but these 5 kids. And it kind of looks at the lives of these 5 chosen ones and what it happens to them after they end up defeating their mission. We then have a really fun YA romance, and that is Meet Me at Midnight by Jessica Pennington. It's about these 2 neighbors that every summer feud, and especially the guy and the girl, like the kids. And one summer, their feud ends up with everyone getting kicked out of their lake house. And so they now have to stay in different accommodations, and the guy, Asher, ends up leaving a note for Sydney that says meet me at midnight, and he has a proposition for her to join forces for the last summer to share an epic prank against the person who kicked them out of their lake house. We have Rules for Being a Girl, which is by Candace Bushnell and Katie Katugo. I got this with Carly from Carly Reads at ALA, and Carly absolutely despised this. So I'm very hesitant to read it now. It's supposed to be a big book about feminism, especially at schools, and sexism in schools, but she said it wasn't that great. So I have this, but I'm not sure exactly how I feel about it anymore. We have What I Like About You by Marissa Cantor. So we have Hallie and we have Nash, but online she goes by this different persona called Kels, who is the creator of this YA book blog, and the 2 of them really get along, but they've never met. And then she ends up meeting him actually in real life, and it's about him being in love with her online and her being in love with him online and in real life, and trying to get him to know her and all that kind of stuff. Now switching to April 14th, we have Elysium Girls by Kate Pentecost. So this is a little confusing to talk about the premise, but basically in this world there are 2 gods, life and death, and these 2 gods, they're sisters, like to play with mortals. And so there's this town called Elysium in Oklahoma. They say that in 10 years time they will return for a new game, and when this happens, we are following 17-year-old Sal, and she is being called to kind of head the game. However, when an outsider arrives, he rivals Sal's kind of claim to lead this game, and she has to prove herself to be the best witch. However, there is a terrible accident, and Sal and this outsider are exiled. And once they're exiled, they kind of find out more truths about what's going on, and they end up being invited into this girl gang who have these mechanic kind of horses, seriously, and they find out that the apocalypse is actually coming, and so they all band together, and it's, I don't know. like I said, it sounds really convoluted when you read the blurb. Like, it's a long blurb, but it sounds really cool. Next, we have the Happily Ever After playlist. Follow Sloane, who 2 years ago lost her fiance. And present day, she finds this lost dog. She puts up an ad being like, hi, I found this lost dog. Let me know if it's yours. And she has him for like probably a month and really bonds with him. And then out of nowhere, this musician guy like reaches out and is like, hey, I'm on tour in Australia and I want my dog. And she doesn't believe that this guy is the real guy. And she starts to feel love again after having this dog as his companion in her life. So she's not really ready to give the dog up. And so it's with the two of them butting heads, which sounds kind of weird, but we'll see. Now on April 21st, we have Race the Sands. So in this world, they believe that who you are in your current life determines how you come back and you are reincarnated in your next life. And for really, really dark individuals, they are reincarnated as these monsters called ᴑᴏᴏᴅᴅ. And in this world, there are people known as ᴑᴏᴏ riders. And I'm guessing this is what those creatures are. We follow Tamra, who was this amazing trainer of ᴑᴏᴏ riders, and then she somehow had this terrible accident with one of her students, and now no one trusts her anymore, and she's kind of going broke. And she needs to find someone to train in order to make money again at the races. In comes Raya, who is trying to escape her family and this arranged marriage she's been put into with this very cruel fiance. And so she decides to team up with Tamra in order to become a ᴑᴏᴏ rider to win money to buy her own freedom. Next, also coming out on April 21st, we have Verona Comics. So it's about Jubilee and Ridley, who meet at this comic convention prom, and it's their romance. We then also have The Silence of Bones, which I have been so intrigued by. So it takes place in 1800s Korea, and it's about this girl who has this curse placed upon her where she is indentured to the police. And while she's indentured to the police, there is this murder that has happened, and she starts to look into it. And I think that it's just about a world where silence and obedience is valued above all else, so curiosity can be deadly. Next, on April 21st, we have Good Morning, Destroyer of Men's Souls. Not gonna lie, I picked this up. It is a memoir, and the title is what really dragged me into it. But it is a scorching story of addiction, codependency, and obsessive love. So it is a very dark, hard-hitting book about being in an abusive relationship and not being able to get out of it. Last, on April 21st, we have You Let Me In by Camilla Bruce. It says, all families have secrets, some of them are killer. And that is all I know. It says, a chilling modern fairy tale. And it starts off with, Cassandra Tipp is dead. Or is she? Oh god, Cassandra Tipp will tell you a story, but it will come with a terrible price. The last two April books come out on the 28th. First we have Don't Call the Wolf by Alexandra Ross. This is a debut. So we follow Ren, and she is a forest queen, and what happens is her forest is being threatened by this horde of monsters that is being led by this golden dragon. And Ren ends up saving this guy named Lucas, which is Lucas spelled L-U-K-A-S Z, which is a choice. And Lucas is the last survivor of these dragon hunters, and so she asks for Lucas's help in defeating this golden dragon. He agrees to help her if she will help him find his brother who disappeared in her forest years ago. We have Incendiary by Zoraida Cordova. It says this girl Renata is one of the Whispers, which is a rebel spy working against the crown. When the commander of her unit is taken captive by the notorious prince, she must return and complete her commander's mission herself. So moving into May, we're gonna start off on May 5th. We actually have, there's quite a few books coming out on May 5th. We have War and Speech. This is by Don Zolidis. So follow Sydney, whose dad is a white-collar criminal and has just been sent to prison. So she has to move in with her mum. And at this new school, it is pretty much ruled by the speech and debate team. And so she makes friends with these misfits who have all been wronged in some way by the speech team. And she decides to infiltrate the speech team to ruin them from the inside. Also on May 5th, we have 4 Days of You and Me by Miranda Kennelly. This is about Lulu and Alex, and it follows them on May 7th from freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior year. and you just follow them on that one day all the 4 years. Also on May 5th we have Running by Natalie Sylvester, and it's about a girl whose dad is running for president. New Kira Cass book. This is a spin-off of the Selection series. Then lastly on May 5th we have Tiny Imperfections by Ali Frank and Asha Umain. This is basically a mother-daughter book. It follows Josie, who used to be the it black girl model of the 90s, who is now a director of this established kindergarten in San Francisco, and her 17-year-old daughter Etta, who wants to be a ballerina. It's about the two of them and their lives, and I think it's a very big mother-daughter relationship. It doesn't mention the back. The only eye candy is the gay dad of one of the prospective kindergarteners, which sounds a little weird. So I hope that's not going to take like a weird turn, we'll see. Switching to May 12th, we have The Trouble with Hating You. Look at this cover, guys. Doesn't that look awesome? We follow this girl and she's a biochemical engineer. We love women in the STEM field. However, her parents really wanted to get married, so they actually set up a dinner with a marriage prospect in which she's like, oh my god, and literally runs out. And then the next week, that guy that was her marriage prospect ends up at her work. And so it's about the two of them, and this literally sounds so good. I'm so excited. Also on May 12th is a very highly anticipated YA fantasy, and that is Girl Serpent Thorn. So this girl who has a twin brother who's about to be wed and become king, and she has been always locked up in their castle because her touch is poisonous. Below the castle is a demon who holds knowledge of her curse, and above the castle is a young man who isn't afraid of her. We have My Summer of Love and Misfortune by Lindsay Wong, and it's about Iris, who ends up, after her boyfriend cheats on her and her summer seems like it's going to be an utter mess, gets sent by her parents to visit her family in Beijing. And she ends up getting swept up into the lives of the opulent and powerful elite of Beijing's culture, and it sounds very, very interesting. Next we have By the Book by Amanda Sallett, and this sounds so freaking cute. It's about this girl who doesn't really know much about romance and decides to use old romance novels such as by, you know, Tolstoy and Jane Austen to kind of give her ideas of how to flirt and have a romance, and it sounds so adorable. Then we have The Fascinators by Andrew Eliopoulos, which I talked about in my anticipated 2020 debuts from January through June. This was one of the May releases I talked about, and it's about these three teens who live in this world where there are magicians. So one of the guys is in love with one of the other guys, but that guy has gotten the three of them into this huge magical mess, and then the girl of the group is very frustrated that they're kind of amateur magicians and wishes that they were better magicians, and it's about the three of them and how magic brought them together but could also break them apart. Lastly, on May 12th, we have Forged in Fire and Stars. So there is a legend of this person called the Lawsmith, who was this legendary blacksmith that served alongside the kings and queens and forged legendary weapons. And Ara has been told that she will be the next Lawsmith, that she will inherit these powers. And so the lost princess and prince end up stealing her in an attempt to reclaim their throne. Switching to May 14th, we have The Unadoptables by Hannah Took. And this is a middle grade that says 5 orphans who want nothing more than to find loving families until a sinister stranger tries to adopt all 5 of them. On May 19th, we have Date Me Bryson Keller, which is by Kevin Van Wy. Each week, the King of Fairville Academy, Bryson Keller, must date someone new, the first person to ask him out on Monday morning, until a boy asks him out and changes everything. Then last 2 books came out on May 26th. The first one is Stay Gold by Tolby McSmith, and this is about a transgender teen, and he recently moves to a new school after being treated badly at his old school, and he ends up just wanting to kind of keep a low profile, and he doesn't really want to be outed for being a transgender teen. However, he catches the eye of one of the head cheerleaders and vice versa, and so it's about the 2 of them. And then lastly, we have The Jewel Thief by Janine Mobley. I'm so excited for this. It is set, I think, what century France is this? I think it's 18th century France it's set, which, you know, is a buzzword for me. I think it has to do with the Hope Diamond and stealing it. And there's also a romance, heist, period France. What more do you really need to know? This video is honestly taking like 12 hours to film. I don't know if you guys can tell in my editing of this, but it is literally taking me So many hours to film this. It's ridiculous. Okay, so let's go into June. June 1st, we have one of my most highly anticipated releases, and that is If We Were Us by �ᴏᴏᴅᴅ. This follows Sage and Charlie, who are best friends, and everyone thinks they're totally gonna end up together. However, turns out Charlie's gay, and he is falling for this new guy in school, and at the same time, Sage is falling for Charlie's twin brother. And so it's about these 4 teens and how Sage and Charlie keep their friendship alive throughout this new romantic development going on in their lives. Moving to June 2nd, we have The Dark Tide by ɪନିର୍sᴛᴏᴅ. Oh my god. What are you doing? Oh my god, my cat just, what are you, oh, you little shit. So in this kingdom, every year the witch queen lures a boy back to her palace and ends up sacrificing him in order to keep the island afloat. However, this year Lena believes that her brother is going to be chosen as the sacrifice, and so she enlists the help of her crush, Thomas, to help her save her brother. However, by doing this, they end up capturing the attention of the queen, and Thomas is chosen as a sacrifice instead. And so Lena offers herself to the queen in exchange for Thomas's freedom, and the 2 girls await the full moon together. Then we have A Song of Wraiths and Ruin by Rosanna A. Brown. My cat is playing with something now. Why does she have to do this to me? So this is the first in a fantasy duology that is inspired by West African folklore, and it says, when his sister is kidnapped by a vengeful spirit and her mother is killed by a mysterious assassin, the 2 of them have only 1 week to bring them back to the land of the living by murdering the very person they're falling for. Dun dun dun! So, sounds really cool. Still on June 2nd, we have I Killed Zoe Spanos by Kit Frick. So this is about Anna, who arrives in the Hamptons for a nannying gig, and when she gets there, she hears about this disappearance of a girl named Zoe Spanos. It's weird because Anna actually looks a lot like Zoe, and people are convinced there's something going on there. 2 months later, Zoe's body is found, and Anna is charged with manslaughter. We have Curse of the Night Witch by Alex Astor. This is the first in a new middle grade fantasy series where it's about this island where everyone is born knowing their fates. And Tor was born with this fate to be a leader, and he hates that. So on the night of New Year's, he wishes for a different power. And then when he wakes up the next morning, he has a new emblem on his body, and it is a curse emblem that will shorten his life. And so he must now team up these 2 other people to race against his ticking clock. Lastly, on June 2nd, we have Where Dreams Descend by Janella Angelis. I'm really excited for this, and I also got to meet her while I was there, so it is signed. And this is basically Moulin Rouge meets Phantom of the Opera YA Fantasy Edition. Switching to June 9th, we have the Falling in Love montage by Clara Smith, and it's about these 2 girls who decide to have a fun rom-com, cliche, date-filled summer. At the end of summer, they will break up, no hard feelings. However, in classic romance fashion, that's not how it's gonna work out. We have Hood, which is a gender-bent retelling of Robin Hood, where we follow a girl who is imprisoned after trying to help her innocent villagers. Then we have This Is All Your Fault, which takes place in one night where these 3 girls who work at this bookstore find that it is about to be closed down, and they have this one night to work together to try and save it. Then we have We Are Not Free by Tracy Chee, and this actually has 14 perspectives. It says 14 teens who have grown up together in Japantown, San Francisco, 14 teens who form a community and a family as interconnected as they are conflicted, 14 teens whose lives are turned upside down when over 100,000 people of Japanese ancestry are removed from their homes and forced into desolate incarceration camps. And then we have The More by Megan McCafferty. So this takes place in the summer of 1991, which is 6 years before I was born. And we follow Cassie, who's about to attend Barnard College with her boyfriend of 2 years, and it sounds like a foolproof plan, except she loses her job, loses her boyfriend, and then loses her sanity. And so she ends up rekindling a friendship, reconnecting with her family, and finding an unexpected love and herself. And then on June 16th, we have a very highly anticipated release of mine, and that is The Kind of Poison by Natalie May. And it is about this world where when the king is about to die, he has all of his children participate in this race. And at the end of this race, they have to kill this human sacrifice. And Zara is just this ordinary citizen who is intrigued by the palace and decides to go sneaking in and wandering one day, and she ends up getting caught sneaking around the palace and is then chosen to be the human sacrifice. So, damn, she gotta find a way to save herself. Also on June 16th, we have The Circus Rose by Betsy Cornwall. And this is a queer retelling of Snow White and Rose Red. On June 23rd, we have You're Next, which is by Kylie Schott. And this is a Jamie Patterson Presents YA mystery thriller. We have Take Me With You by Tara Altebrando. Now this sounds wicked weird. So it's these 4 teens who go to school together and get this message on this app that tells them to meet in this classroom, and it is an empty classroom. And when they get there, there is this small cube and it says, "Don't tell anyone about this device. Never leave the device unattended. Take me with you or else." Womp womp womp, death. It sounds really cool. We have Keep My Heart in San Francisco. So we follow Chuck Wilson, who has really big plans for her summer, except her dad forces her to work at their family bowling alley, which she does not want to do. She finds out the reason for this is because her dad has been keeping a secret that they're running low on money and that they may actually end up losing the bowling alley. And so Chuck's ex-best friend, Beckett, ends up coming up with this proposition, and it's about the 2 of them trying to save the bowling alley. Next we have something that I'm so excited about, and that is Sisters of Sword and Song by Rebecca Ross! If you guys don't know, Rebecca Ross is one of my favorite authors. She wrote the Queen's Rising duology, and I absolutely adored it. This is her newest book. I don't actually know much about it. Oh, it's a standalone. And it says 2 sisters, one unbreakable bond, and it's about these... it's when one of the sisters confesses to a murder and the other sister tries to save her. The last June 23rd book I have is My Eyes Are Up Here, and this is of course about boobs. So it's about a 15-year-old girl who has the bra size of a 30H, which is massive. And she lives her life in over baggy sweaters and sweatshirts and things like that, trying to hide her body because she's very ashamed of it. And it's about her coming to terms with who she is and accepting and loving her body. So I love that kind of representation. Keeping up, we then have You Say It First by Katie Katugo. So it's about Meg and Colby, who, I don't know how they get into it. They end up having a phone call, and a lot of that's how they meet, is over the phone and having a political conversation, and it's about the 2 of them and a potential romance. But I think that she has a boyfriend already. So I'm not really sure that's going to work out. It says that it's about them forming a once-in-a-lifetime connection, but in the end, are they just 2 different? So that could go either way. I don't like when books have like any cheating in them, so. Also, we then have Hunted by the Sky, and this sounds so cool. So it's about this girl who was born with this star-shaped tattoo birthmark. And people with this birthmark have been disappearing for years. And then her parents are murdered and she has to flee into hiding. And then we follow this guy whose father's fallen terminally ill, and he's seeking a magic to try and, you know, get him back to health. And yes, we have A Declaration of the Rights of Magicians by H.G. Parry. I honestly don't really know what this is about. Basically about revolutionaries, magicians, abolitionists, and unmasking a hidden enemy during the Revolution of France. So this could go either way. I picked this up because Steph picked it up and I was like, ooh, that looks kind of cool. So we then have The Girl from Widow Hills, and once again, mystery thriller. Don't know too much about it, but it does say she was rescued but never safe. And then finally for June 23rd, we have Girl Unframed by Deb Coletti. Love Deb Coletti so much. This book follows Sydney, whose mum is this mega film star, and Sydney has a bad feeling when she gets on the plane to see her mum again after the school year. And when she gets home, she finds out that her mum is seeing this guy, Jake, who is an art dealer with very shady connections. Not only that, but Jake is also giving her a lot of unwanted attention, and it's not just Jake. Sydney begins to feel a lot of unwanted attention from a lot of other guys, and she starts feeling unsafe and very creeped out. And it says that behaviors that once seemed like misunderstandings begin to feel like threats as the summer grows longer and hotter. And then the last June book comes out on June 30th, and that is Influenced by Sarah Shepard and Lilia Buckingham. So this is a new book by Sarah Shepard, who is the one who wrote Pretty Little Liars series. So this is like a YA thriller mystery about influencers. So yeah, those are the June books. Let's move on to July. We're getting towards the end finally, guys. Like, God, this is taking way too long to film. So starting off on July Fifth, we have A Sky Painted Gold by Laura Wood. And this is a coming-of-age romance story set against a Gatsby-esque backdrop. Then on July 7th, we have The Patient by Jasper DeWitt, which looks kinda cool and creepy. An orderly gone screaming mad, a nurse dead by her own hand, a trail of doctors who lost their minds, all lives, all tried to help the patient. Then we have another middle grade, and that is Muse Squad by Chantal Acevedo. And so we follow Callie, who is the newest muse of poetry, teaming up with the other muses to kind of help save the world because the gods have decided to take a break. Then we have The Voting Booth by Brandy Colbert. I learned about this one because my friend Celia from Little Readers Corner really loves political kind of YA books, and so whenever I come across them I always look at them, and this one really caught my eye. And it's about a girl who has been always wanting to vote and is really excited when she finally gets a chance, and a boy who just goes to the voting polls to make his vote, and then he gets turned away. And it's about the two of them teaming up together to kind of go against the system. Then we have a brand new book by Amy Tintero. We follow Clara, and she has an abusive father. And when she is given the chance to join this squad of people who fight against the monsters that are kind of taking over their area, she jumps at the chance. It's like an urban fantasy. Now we have another retelling, which I'm normally a little bit hesitant about, but this one sounds freaking awesome, and that is Cinderella is Dead. And Cinderella, the original Cinderella, has been dead for over 200 years, and there have been descendants and stuff. And every year there is a ball held where men choose their wives as like from the whole story of Cinderella. It's now a commonplace thing that occurs. We follow Sophie, who would much rather just marry her best friend Erin than have to, you know, go through this whole suitor debacle. And so she decides to run away and escape. And when she runs away, she ends up bumping into the last descendant of Cinderella, and the two of them end up teaming up. Now moving on to July 17th, we have Splinters of Scarlet. Does this not look gorgeous? So this is a historical fantasy set in 19th century Denmark. In this world there is this magic called the Fern, and it is kind of like thread magic basically. However, this magic is very dangerous, so she vowed to never use it. When this younger girl that she views as a sister ends up being adopted by this person, she uses her thread magic to get a job as a seamstress at this household. However, she also has another ulterior motive, and that is the fact that this wealthy person is also kind of connected to her father's death. Kind of randomly, we have The Woman Before Wallace, a novel of Windsors, Vanderbilts, and royal scandal. This stunning novel tells a true story of the American divorcee who captured Prince Edward's heart before he abdicated his throne for Wallis Simpson. Second to last for July, we have Girl from Nowhere, and it says, Red Sparrow meets One of Us is lying in this action-packed YA thriller debut. And the tagline is, 94 countries, 31 schools, 2 bullets, now it's over. Or so she thinks. And then the last July book, which is my most anticipated July release, is Ghostwood Song. So it says, Shady Grove inherited her father's ability to call ghosts from the grave with his fiddle, but she also knows the fiddle's tune means nothing but trouble and darkness. When her brother is accused of murder, she can't let the dead keep their secrets. In order to clear his name, she's going to have to make these ghosts sing. Okay, and finally moving into August, September, and October. Woo! We have, to start off August, on August 4th, Eva Evergreen Semi-Magical Word. Isn't this cute? So I don't really know too much what this is about, but the tagline was perfect for fans of Kiki's Delivery Service and Arusha and the End of Time. This is a fantasy in which a young witch must pass a coming-of-age quest or risk losing her magic forever. So, oh my god, just, look at it! Guys, it seems so cute! Then we have They Wish They Were Us. This says Gossip Girl meets One of Us is lying, and anytime someone says a YA thriller is kind of like One of Us is lying, I'm just like, yes, give it to me. Tell me nothing else. That is like, you compare anything to that, and I'm just like, okay, I'll take it. I'll read that. It says this is a murder mystery that will have you guessing until the very end. Then we have Rick Riordan Presents, and this is Paulo Santiago and the River of Tears. Then the last August 4th book is More Than Just a Pretty Face by Saeed M. Masood. So we follow Danielle, and he is just like your average student, and he doesn't really care that no one thinks he's that special, except for the fact that his longtime crush doesn't really see him as the best marriage prospect, even though they do have an arranged marriage. However, Danielle then gets elected as the Renaissance man at their school, and this is an academic championship and the perfect opportunity to show everyone he's smarter than they think. And he recruits this girl, Bisma, to help him with that, and I'm guessing that it's going to be the two of them and then end up falling in love. Now we have a book that was originally published in Australia a year ago, but it's just being published in August in the US, and that is The Secret Runners. This was originally published as The Secret Runners of New York, but it's about Sky and her twin brother Red, and how there are rumors of a global apocalypse coming. Sky and Red have been invited to join The Secret Runners, which are an exclusive group that has access to horrifying truths about the future. The last August book on 25th is Love Sold Separately, which seems so cute. This just popped up on NetGalley the other day, and so when I saw it at ALA, I was so excited. So we follow Dana, who is an aspiring actress, but she's unemployed, and when she finds that the shopping channel is currently hiring, she auditions and actually gets the job of the host. However, the star host is found dead, and there is this guy who everyone thinks is the prime murder suspect. However, Dana knows that it is not him because they were together when they heard the gunshot. It is about the two of them trying to get him free, while she also feels some chemistry with the handsome detective in charge. Then there's a book that comes out on September 1st that I picked up merely because it looked really intriguing, and that is The Insomniacs by Marit Weisenberg. It literally has nothing on it. I had to Google, and it's about this teen who's a diver and gets into an accident and then has insomnia, and then meets another teen who also has insomnia, and it's about the two of them working through their traumas and their insomnia together. Last in September on the 15th is Even If We Break by Marieke Nijkamp. It says, a shocking new thriller about a group of friends tied together by a game and the deadly weekend that tears them apart. Which comes out on October 13th. We have Above All Else, which is a Mount Everesty set book. Okay, that is all, dealt with now. So we can go on to the comics, manga, and the finished copies that I grabbed. So I grabbed 4 comics. So we have Faithless, this is an erotica. We have Heavy Vinyl, which it's about girls solving stuff from a music store. Backstages, which is, as it sounds, and then Fence, which everyone raves about and I just wanted to get my hands on. I then got myself a copy of Demon Slayer, which is a very popular anime at the moment. I then got a US arc of Heartstopper by Alice Oseman, which I'm so excited about because everyone has always raved about this. Oh, maybe I'll do this for Contemporary-a-thon as well. And then for finished copies, I got the QB Bad Boy and Me. This is a Wattpad sensation. Yes, I did do this. It says, the funny, steal your heart breakout story about a cheerleader, a sexy football player, and the chaos of trying not to fall in love. Why not? I got a finished copy of Love Boat Taipei, which I believe is about a girl whose family sends her to Taiwan for an educational immersion program, and then she finds herself surrounded by these prodigies that are interested in Taipei nightlife and hookups and all this kind of stuff. Then we have Together We Caught Fire, which does have a bit of a trope I'm the hugest fan of. It's about this girl who, weeks before the end of her senior year, is it her mum or her dad? Her dad introduces her to... What'd you just do, child? Introduces her to his new fiance, and his new fiance's son is her all-time crush. So now they're gonna live together, which is my favorite manga trope, but I'm not really sure how I feel about it being in a book. I also got, finally, The Waking Forest, which came out last year at an e-arc of this. Never got around to reading it, so now I can finally read it and help my NetGalley ratings. It's about a girl, a witch, and how their paths collide. I then also got I Know You Remember, which is the newest book by Jennifer Donaldson, who wrote Lies You Never Told Me. I just love her books, so anytime I see something new by her, I'm like, oh my god, I need to read it. So duh. I then got my hands, I was so excited for these. I got my hands on Get a Layer, Chloe Brown and The Right Swipe. So excited for these! Everyone raves about these too, and so now I finally own them. Oh, I also got a copy of, I cannot bother grabbing it down, but I got a finished copy of The Toll by ɪɪl-sᴛᴏᴜ. Have I read this series yet? No. Do I now own it? Yes. Is that something I do a lot? Possibly. Don't judge me. I swear to God, if someone judges me on this video, I'ma just be a sad nugget. But yes, I think that's it. I honestly could be forgetting, like, I just, as I said, redid everything. So I could have gotten other ones that are like somehow hiding somewhere or other. I honestly don't know what to tell you, but yes. Hope you guys liked this hell of a long video and that y'all didn't get too bored by me just talking about over 100 books in a single video. But this was kind of hell to film, so I hope you guys like it. Anyway, if you guys did, please hit the like button down below if you want to see more of me. Subscribe to my channel, and until next time, thanks a bunch, guys. Bye!